was in chaos. Flour was flying around in clouds like a snowstorm, tomato sauce was boiling in a huge pot, and someone was loudly singing an aria from the opera La Traviata. But the most noise came from the corner where 3 aliens from the planet Globulon were trying to cook lasagna for the first time in their lives. What is this strange process? Mol'Gar, the leader of their group, spoke indignantly. His body was like a transparent jelly-like mass, which unfortunately was now covered in flour. It's called cooking, the trattoria owner, Signor Vincenzo, explained cheerfully. The art of cooking. Mol'Gar waved his tentacles irritably, trying to throw off the dough. His partners, the long and lean Zi'Far and the square Kob'Lok, also looked as if a storm of pasta had descended upon them. Art? Zi'Far interjected, looking around. We have food synthesized instantly on Globulon. Why go to so much trouble? Because it's delicious. Vincenzo wouldn't give up. The story began a few weeks before this chaos in the kitchen. A spaceship carrying a delegation from Globulon had accidentally landed in Italy. Tired, hungry, and most importantly, curious, the aliens decided to explore human culture. Their encounter with Vincenzo happened by chance when they walked into his small trattoria, attracted by the aroma of freshly made lasagna. What is that magical smell? Kob'Lok was the first to ask, his metallic voice echoing through the room. Vincenzo, accustomed to tourists from all over the world, didn't even flinch when he saw the strange guests. He simply smiled and said, "This is lasagna, my pride. Will you try some?" As the first portion of lasagna disappeared into the aliens' strange anatomical systems, expressions that could only be described as bliss appeared on their faces. We must learn to make it ourselves, Mol'Gar declared. The next day, the aliens returned to the trattoria. They insisted that Vincenzo teach them all the secrets of making lasagna. Cooking requires patience, he began. And love. Mol'Gar, blinking his large eyes, interjected. Patience? That's a term that doesn't exist in our culture. Let's get started. Vincenzo said cheerfully, handing them their aprons. The first step was the dough. Vincenzo showed them how to mix the flour, eggs, and salt. However, Mol'Gar didn't have hands in the usual sense, so he used his tentacles, causing the entire kitchen to be covered in sticky dough. This is harder than I thought, he muttered. Zi'Far, who was more graceful than his companions, tried rolling the dough with a rolling pin, but instead of an even layer, he got something that looked more like an abstract drawing. Kob'Lok, on the other hand, tried to use his massive strength, but each time he broke the dough, turning it into lumps. You're missing the point, Vincenzo said, trying to be patient. You have to feel the dough. Feel? Zi'Far interjected. We don't have the receptors for that. Then watch and repeat, Vincenzo smiled. When it came to making the sauce, things got even more interesting. Are those tomatoes? Mol'Gar asked, looking at the red fruits. They look like biological weapons. It's the base of the lasagna, Vincenzo explained calmly. Kob'Lok picked up a knife to slice an onion, but instead he accidentally sliced the wooden cutting board in half. Calm down. Vincenzo shrieked. This is a kitchen, not a battlefield. While Mol'Gar was stirring the tomato sauce, he accidentally added too much spice to the pot, causing a small chemical reaction. The entire sauce began to bubble and sparkle like a lava fountain. Is that normal? Zi'Far asked nervously. No! Shouted Vincenzo, quickly turning off the stove. By the time the dough had been rolled out and the sauce saved, the aliens had become more confident in their abilities. Now we put it all together, Vincenzo said. Layers of dough, sauce, cheese. And so on several times. Like an architectural structure? Kob'Lok clarified. Yes, you could say that. But the aliens couldn't resist experimenting. Zi'Far suggested adding some of their local ingredient, globulon glowing root, to the lasagna. This turned the dish into a neon lasagna that glowed in the dark. It's something new, Vincenzo admitted, but added sternly, next time, no improvisation. When the lasagna was ready, Vincenzo and the aliens sat down at the table. The dish was strange, a combination of a traditional Italian recipe and Globulonian experiments. "Well, shall we taste it?" Vincenzo asked. A piece of neon lasagna disappeared into Kob'Lok's massive mouth. The alien's eyes lit up, and he spoke. "This is unbelievable." Even Mol'Gar, who had been skeptical of the cooking at first, couldn't contain his delight. "If you like this beginning, I can develop it further, adding more details, plot twists, and humor." Chapter 6. Lasagna causes a sensation. After the aliens tasted the lasagna, they decided that it absolutely had to be introduced to the entire galactic community. "This dish will change the way we think about food," Mol'Gar declared inspirationally. "Now we understand why humans value cooking so much. It's not just a meal, it's a ritual." Vincenzo, flattered by this response, suggested, "If you want lasagna to be known throughout your galaxy, you'll have to learn how to make it without my help." "But it's complicated," Zi'Far remarked. "And it requires, what did you say? Patience?" "Exactly." Vincenzo encouraged them. "Patience is your key to success." The next day, preparations began in earnest. Vincenzo made a schedule for the aliens, which they followed with enthusiasm. Day 1. Kneading the dough. Mol'Gar invented a new technique of using all of his tentacles to knead at the same time, making it possible to achieve a perfectly uniform dough in a matter of minutes. "I was made for this," he declared proudly. Day 2. The perfect sauce. Kob'Lok discovered that his metal plates were perfect for slicing vegetables, and became an expert at preparing ingredients. "My super precision will save this kitchen," he said as he sliced tomatoes with incredible speed. Day 3. Lasagna assembly. Zi'Far, known for his love of symmetry, has become a master of layering. "Each serving must be a work of art," he insisted, leveling the cheese layer with a laser level. But not everything went smoothly. One day Zi'Far, inspired by the success of the glowing lasagna, decided to add more globulon ingredients. "It would make it unique," he assured me. The result was a sauce that began to make strange noises and vibrate slightly. When the lasagna was ready, its brightness was so intense that it illuminated the entire restaurant. "It's not lasagna, it's a spotlight." Vincenzo was outraged. "It's scary to eat." "I admit I overdid it," Zi'Far replied modestly, turning off the glowing lasagna. When the aliens had finally mastered all the steps, Vincenzo proposed an intergalactic dinner, a special event where they would invite guests from both Earth and other planets. Vincenzo and the aliens prepared 3 types of lasagna for this event. The menu at Vincenzo's trattoria now included not only classic Italian dishes, but also galactic experiments. Visitors from all over the Earth came to try the unique lasagna, and the aliens began to actively incorporate cooking into their culture. "When you cook, you put your soul into it," Vincenzo told his new students, who included both humans and beings from other worlds. And each bite of lasagna was a reminder that even the most diverse cultures can find common ground, through food. The opening of the Globulon restaurant turned out to be a series of comical situations. The Globulon audience was not prepared for the fact that food has to wait. "We're used to instant food fusion," resented a customer with 6 eyes, banging his tentacle on the table. "Why has my lasagna been cooking for 10 minutes? "Because art takes time," patiently explained Vincenzo, who had flown to Globulon to help launch the restaurant. To solve the problem, Mol'Gar suggested entertaining guests with a special show, the Lasagna Dance. In this performance, chefs juggled dough, threw pieces of cheese in the air, and Kob'Lok, known for his strength, demonstrated acrobatic tricks with giant pans. Soon customers began coming not only for the food, but also for the show. "This is just brilliant," Zi'Far said, checking the cash registers. "We've doubled our revenue." Once upon a time, a Globulan chef accidentally used up all of Globulan's supply of glowing root to make lasagna for a party. What to do now? Mol'Gar panicked. The root only grows on the other side of the planet, and it's hard to find. Vincenzo, smiling, said, "Then we'll make it an adventure." And so the entire restaurant crew, Vincenzo, Mol'Gar, Zi'Far and Kob'Lok, set off into the jungles of the planet Globulon. Along the way, they encountered many difficulties. 1. Singing slugs. These creatures would start singing loudly if anyone approached. Their voices were so horrible that the team was forced to wear special noise-canceling headphones. 2. Gravity pits. Zi'Far, engrossed in collecting roots, accidentally stepped into a pit with reduced gravity and flew 30 meters into the air. He was rescued by Kob'Lok, who tied him to himself with a rope. 3. Slime guard. The root was guarded by a huge creature that looked like a giant caterpillar. To distract it, Vincenzo offered to cook a small lasagna on the spot. The caterpillar was so pleased with the treat that it allowed him to take the roots. It wasn't a search for ingredients, it was a whole action movie. Laughed Mol'Gar as they headed back to the restaurant. A few weeks later, Zi'Far decided to conduct an experiment. He added a new substance to tomato sauce that he thought would improve the flavor. What he didn't take into account, however, was that Globulon chemistry sometimes behaves unpredictably. When the sauce boiled, it suddenly began bubbling and singing, "Is this an opera?" Marveled Vincenzo when a loud, "Oh, sol mio," in a strangely mechanical rendition came from the pot. The restaurant's customers were delighted, and the sauce was dubbed the lasagna song. The problem, however, was that it kept singing even after it was served, sometimes making customers laugh until they cried. "That's a side effect," Zi'Far sighed. "But it's delicious." The restaurant's popularity led the team to open a branch on Earth. But the location was poorly chosen, in the middle of Las Vegas, where competition was fierce. At the restaurant's opening, things went wrong. 1. Broken holograms. The Globulonians decided to decorate the restaurant with holographic lasagnas that were supposed to float through the air. But due to a program glitch, one of the holograms became aggressive and started attacking guests until it was turned off. 2. The problem with human portions. The aliens didn't realize that humans needed smaller portions. One serving of lasagna was the size of a coffee table, and Vincenzo exclaimed in horror. "Do you want them to eat that or use it as furniture?" 3. Mistaken order. By mistake, a guest was served a lasagna with globulin root that glowed in the dark. The customer was scared at first, but then took a photo and posted it on the internet. The lasagna ended up being a viral hit. The team decided to present their lasagna at the Galactic culinary competition, which was held annually on the planet Germanium 5. Classic Italian lasagna for traditionalists. Neon lasagna, with a light glow to surprise the guests. Cosmic surprise lasagna, with globulin ingredients that changed flavor depending on the temperature. "We're ready," Mol'Gar said confidently, adjusting his apron. On the day of the dinner, the trattoria was packed with guests from all corners of the Earth, and even a few from other planets. First on the table was the classic lasagna. Its flavor delighted everyone, especially the human guests. "It's divine," said the famous Italian critic Giovanni Ferrero. The neon lasagna also found its fans. One of the aliens from the planet Luminar, who fed on the light, called it a cultural revolution. But the real hit of the evening was the cosmic surprise lasagna. When it was served, guests didn't know what to expect. Depending on how fast they ate it, the flavor changed from sweet to spicy. "It's magic!" exclaimed one of the guests, unable to take notes in time. After dinner, Vincenzo and the Globulonians' lasagna became a sensation. Reports of the unusual dinner traveled around the world and beyond. Now the aliens were not just explorers, but culinary stars. "We have proven that cooking is an art that can unite galaxies," declared Mol'Gar. The first Italian restaurant was opened on the planet Globulon, and Vincenzo was invited to be its honorary chef. Among the competitors were ChefBot 3000, a robot that cooked with perfect precision. Flying cooks from Alpha Centauri, their dishes literally floated in the air. Mr. Flapflung from the planet Gelion, his desserts danced on the plate. Aliens and Vincenzo presented their neon lasagna with song sauce, which impressed the judges not only with flavor but also with showmanship. When the lasagna sang La Traviata and the customers started dancing, the judges just couldn't contain their excitement. "The winners," announced the host. After winning the contest, lasagna became a symbol of intergalactic friendship. Now it was cooked on every planet, and Vincenzo became a famous chef, invited to open a restaurant even in Saturn's orbit. Mol'Gar, Zi'Far and Kob'Lok began a tour, teaching cooking classes to people from many different worlds. "Lasagna is more than a dish," Mol'Gar said at each lecture. "It's proof that even the most diverse cultures can understand each other, if they're hungry enough."